Mhm. All right. Welcome, everyone. Welcome. Welcome to another week of Blueprint for Peak Performance. Ask Me Anything. I'm Brandi Smith. I am the founder of Perfect 10 Physical Therapy and Performance Training, and also the founder of Perfect 10 PT Academy. Come on in, Latifa. I'm so glad you're joining us today, Latifa. So for those of you that don't know me, I'm a physical therapist. I am a former two-time national championship collegiate gymnast and physical therapist performance coach. I work with athletes all the way from 3 months old all the way up to Olympic level athletes and on the world team athletes, both male and female. When I first started gymnastics, I was 3 and have that typical story of competing when I was 7 and also competing when I was 7, getting that dream of going on to college and going through that whole career through college. And in that process, I also coached gymnastics. And so I first started coaching probably when I was about 14, helping, having my own classes by 16. And I taught preschool gymnastics for a long time and helped. I was the preschool director at our gym for a period, and then I also helped other gyms throughout my college career and into my physical therapy career, like my master's program. I helped other gyms kind of build their preschool programs, and that's actually where my heart lies, is in the preschool programs. I love little kids, and as much fun as it is to be under all the fire and heat that happens at a national and Olympic level, it's really a lot more fun to work with little kids. Now, it's not just that, though. I think that the coolest thing about the world of gymnastics, and all of you guys who are in here who are coaches and gym owners, and also parents, is that the younger we get them, they're so open to the world and experiencing the world, and they're really learning, and it's such a great opportunity to plant amazing seeds and fertilize them. So it is my passion that I feel like gymnastics is a place for us to really plant some seeds and grow some amazing humans. And there are some gaps in our world these days that I feel like gyms and coaches can help fill. And so we're going to talk about a bunch of different things today. But today we are doing myth busting, right? So we are going to myth bust some of those things that just may be holding us back or keeping us from fully coaching and realizing our athletes' potentials and our kids' potentials across the country. So coaching myths, what's really holding you back, your gymnastics back. So we're going to talk about that. And then we've got some really cool, exciting news as well. We do have a new program that's out, so I am going to tell you, we're not here to sell you on it. Yes, you guys are going to learn about it, but we're here to help give some tools with your younger kids and your older kids. These tools are actually good for everyone. But I want to start proposing that we think about how can we really affect our community and impact our community and the children in our community at earlier ages. And I highly promote starting gymnastics, our parent and taught classes. I promote starting with parent and baby at 3 months old. 3 months specifically, not because the things can't be done that I do in my baby program earlier. They can, and I did. But when it comes to putting children in large groups, I'd recommend waiting until 3 months, because at 11 weeks, their immune system is fully developed. So I think it's healthier to be in large groups in a gym that has germs, etc., when they're 3 months old. So, but that being said, most programs don't start till 18 months, and we're missing a huge opportunity to support our community. We're missing a huge opportunity to support families, and also to grow longer lasting relationships, multi-generations, because if we can capture a family, there's a couple of gyms that work with me in my Invincible Athlete program, my year-long program, and they actually are gym owners of the gym they grew up in. And I think that says a lot. So it's like we can actually capture multiple generations. And I know there's actually a couple of coaches on here right now who've told me stories about how they're coaching children of the children that they used to coach. And so that says a lot about our ability to grow relationships and support our families. So that being said, we're going to do some myth busting and also talk about, let me share. This is silly. It's going to share the Zoom screen first because that's what's pulled up. Sorry, guys. There we go. Yeah, so we're going to kind of go through some of this myth busting, and I'm going to see if I can get rid of, yeah, I just want to see that. There we go. So we're going to go through a myth bust some of these things, and we're going to talk about common things. But briefly, for a moment, can you guys put in the chat for me who all we have here? Like you're a coach, you're a gym owner, what levels you coach. I know Hannah said she coaches all from parent and taught preschool kids all the way up to level 10. I know Carla coaches everyone, preschool all the way up. And I know Dawn runs the program at her gym that has lots of different levels of athletes from, you know, preschool all the way up. She's mostly, I think, in charge of the developmental and Excel kids. And Brienne, you also do a little bit of everything. Let's see. Yeah, programming coach and everyone. Got it. And then Brienne does Excel. Thank you guys so much for sharing, and thanks for being here. So we're going to open up conversation. So I like to talk and talk together. So we're going to go through some of these myths that are kind of things that I feel like we should talk about. Now, the first one I'm going to kind of blow through because I think it's changing in the world. You guys can correct me if I'm wrong. You can put in the chat or something. Okay, yeah, Dawn's the team director and coach. So I think you guys can correct me if I'm wrong, but I think this myth is starting to get busted, but it still happens across the country, so I'm going to have to say it. Myth one is that gymnastics has to hurt. Also, the other thing I'd like to add to this is that gymnastics has to be hard. So I just had this conversation with actually one of the Olympic athletes I work with, and he was like, yeah, because he's going into this big thing coming up, and he was like, something dawned on me the other day, and he was like, you know, maybe it doesn't have to be hard. Like, maybe it's okay that it's easy. And this was like a big aha moment at 23, and I've been working with him since he was 8. And I thought, yeah, like, of course, like this is definitely a part of this. So part of the what I want to throw in here is that gymnastics has to hurt, this idea that gymnastics has to hurt, but also the idea that gymnastics has to be hard, like that it has to be something that's really hard and it's hard work, and you know, that there's like hardship in gymnastics. Not saying that there isn't, right? But I'm just saying that sometimes we adopt this belief that it should be. So this idea that it's just part of being a gymnast, I hear that all the time. Like, it's just part of being a gymnast. Or I hear retired gymnasts or coaches who are like, you know, my ankles hurt every time I get out of bed. I'm sore every day. My back hurts when I'm coaching. And it's just part of it. You know, I'm just an old gymnast. And I'm like, it doesn't have to be that way, right? So pain, one of the things I see is pain in my back with bridges is normal, and wrist pain is normal. When they land, it should hurt in their ankles. These are like beliefs that a lot of people hold. And so that being said, this is not true, right? Yes, muscle soreness is normal, and you guys know what that looks like. It's in your muscle belly. It goes away within 24 hours, give or take. Unless you've really overdone it, then it takes 72 hours, sometimes 96 for delayed onset muscle soreness to go away. But pain is not normal. It's usually not what you're doing, it's how you're doing something. And one of the key concepts that I want to think about is that pain is just information. And all it is information from the body or from our senses that goes to our brain, and our brain is what gives us pain. So pain is just information. It's telling me either what I'm doing I'm not ready for, right? Which most gymnastics is ready for progressions, and that's usually not part of the case. But the other part is like how I'm doing it is not effective. Another part might be that pain is information that there's something going on inside my body, like there's actually a tissue issue. And so underlying all of this stuff is really what we call movement impairments or muscle imbalances. So it's like if I like to think of the body as a circus tent with a bunch of lines in every direction. If I have a whole bunch of 100-pound billies everywhere, then my circus tent is happy. My pole is happy. But if I have an 800-pound bubba on one side and a 100-pound billy on the other, my pole is going to lean to the 800-pound bubba. Well, so if I'm at a joint and I have these nice tendons attaching to growth plates, right, if I'm a growing athlete, or just tendons attaching to bone if I'm older, then when I am got an 800-pound bubba on one side, now instead of being centered in all of my joints or axis of my joints, I'm actually off kilter a little bit. And when I'm off, now I have abnormal forces or stresses on the body. And now I have tension being put on tendons, on joints, on growth plates that we're not built for. And so we have all these nice little receptors because our brain is so smart that sends information to the brain. They're pressure receptors, like I'm loading and putting pressure on something called mechanical receptors. We have receptors that feel tension and stretch in muscles and tendons. And we also have receptors that sense inflammation in the joints and in the body. And those will send information to the brain, and the brain will go, hey, I don't like this. I'm going to give you pain. Why is the brain giving you pain? To say, hey, I don't like this, do something different. Change something, right? So I work a ton with people on how to move better and how to be more efficient. I was just working with someone just right before this, and one of my favorite phrases is maximal movement with minimal effort. So one of the examples I love to use is Usain Bolt. Now, I know that there are runners that have broken some of his records now, but that man is pretty amazing to watch run. And there are other athletes that also are great examples of this. Michael Phelps swimming through the water. But I love seeing Usain Bolt run because actually they found that it was like 70% of his time. Like I remember how many seconds it was. It was like his fastest run. I don't want to get wrong with seconds because it was so fast. But they looked at how many seconds it took for him to do his sprint and how many seconds he actually had nothing touching the ground. And it was almost 70% of the time he had nothing touching the ground. So think about that. Fastest man in the world for a very long time, right? I don't think he's the fastest man in the world now. I think someone has broken it. But fastest man in the world for the longest time, which means he could produce power fast in a short distance. Right? He could produce power fast. And if you think about it, if more than 50% of the time, right? Because with a normal run, you're off of you're on one foot 50% of the time, right? But more than 50% of the time, they found it was like 60 to 70%, somewhere in there. More than 50% of the time, he was flying. He didn't have anything touching the ground. So that is an example of maximal movement with minimal effort, in that when he hits the ground, he's so efficient that he projects the power forward, right? Are you guys following? I can't see faces, so I'm like, you guys following? I hope you're following, because I think this is like super brilliant. One of these days, maybe I'll pull it up. We should do this with Michael here, one of the coaches. We have a running coach. For those of you that are new, we do me and we do all kinds of other people on Wednesdays. And we had a running coach a few weeks back and love him. We won't be able to get him back in until summer. He's way too busy now. But that would be great to break down Usain Bolt's running and that amount of speed. But the point is that the more efficient you are at moving, the less effort it actually takes. Do you have to have strength and power? Yes, right? But it's Newton's first law. If you get something, is it first law, second law? It's one of Newton's laws, where if you put an object in motion, it will remain in motion, right? So if you just keep adding a little power, then you keep remaining in motion. And so that's where Usain really does amazing things. So why do I say this? Because back to that concept that goes with this pain concept and how I throw it in, is that there's this idea that gymnastics should be hard, right? Like this idea that like it should be hard because it's superhuman. And it is superhuman, but it doesn't have to be hard all the time. If you're more efficient in your movement, then you won't be actually working hard. And when athletes work hard, I have a lot of overworkers in gymnastics. They work really hard. When they work really hard, you have to recognize that every muscle on the body has what's called a force vector. It has a direction of pull. It's direction of action. And so my biceps, example, my biceps has a direction of pull that goes this way, right? It's pretty much a straight force up, give or take. My triceps has a direction of pull that when it pulls this way, right? So it's pretty much a straight pull. If my biceps and triceps are activating at the same time to work hard, how much movement am I going to get in my elbow? Like probably none, very minimal. And if one of them outpowers the other, then I'll get some movement in one direction or the other. But at that point, my joint has gotten nice and compressed. And how much wiggle room do I really have to move around in my like puzzle piece of my joint, if you make sense? Like if you think of it like a puzzle piece. And so if I can do maximal movement with minimal effort, then I don't need to compress everything in and I can get full range of motion, etc. I'm not fighting myself. So some of the overuse injuries we see are because people are overworking. And that's a total counter belief than what I've seen in the sport of gymnastics. I can't tell you how many athletes I say, I need you to just relax. Like with sticking in particular, I need you to relax. Don't fall on your butt, but I need you to relax. And when I tell them just to relax and let go, like sometimes I have athletes that will be doing all kinds of skills. Maybe it's just a back walkover. Maybe it's a round up by handspring full. Or maybe it's a Yurchenko, or we're doing Tactiles, like whatever skill it is they're struggling with. And it can be at all levels, like I said, back walkovers, handstands, cartwheels. But I'll say to them, like, just give me 30% effort. And then they'll hit and they'll look at me completely floored. And I'm like, well, if you think about all the additions of the force vectors they were doing when they were overworking, they're pulling themselves this way and that way and this way. And because they have the arch here in their back, now their hips have to flex here so they don't fall over. Like, they're just working too hard. If they just find the proper alignment of the movement pattern that they need to do, then things don't have to work so hard. So key term, maximal movement with minimal effort. Gymnastics does not have to be hard. Now, do you have to be strong? Yes. But the concept that you need to work really hard to move something, to move your body around a piece of equipment, to even move a heavy object, it's not the case if you're efficient. This can go back to like Egyptians, Romans, the first use of physics, right? The whole use of like a lever arm, right, was to, using a fulcrum and a lever arm, is to help decrease the amount of energy put in. And that's how they move like these stones. That's how they believe they've moved the stones for the pyramids. That's how they believe they move the stones. And they would use very simply like one little rock underneath it and large sticks. The larger the lever arm, like the less amount of men they needed to move these things, right? There's all kinds of cool shows on that. So the same thing goes for our body, in that if I can be more efficient and effective in my movement, I don't have to work so hard. And sometimes the overworking is what's causing us overuse injuries. Any thoughts on that? I'm just curious. What do you guys think about that when I say that? Go ahead and just unmute or come on in or give me your 2 cents.
It's kind of like a regular clear hip to like horizontal is technically actually harder than a clear hip circle to handstand. It's just the shapes, how tight you are in the shapes and how efficiently you move through those shapes.
Yeah, how efficiently you can change shapes, right? So we're going to talk about that in a second, because if I don't have good brain-body connection, right? And you're right, because if someone has efficient or effective like shaping, and they have a beautiful clear hip to hand, right? And they just figure out the timing of it, drop, shape change up, right? If you ask them to do a clear hip to horizontal, they're gonna not get it. Like, it's gonna be hard work, because they now have to stop their momentum to go into that horizontal. Now, if you have a novice who's building up to the vertical, they're actually slowly learning the shape change and slowly learning the timing of when the drop is, where the drop is, and where to let open, so they can figure out where their feet go, right? And so that's the cool thing about the progressions, and some of what I like about the new way they've built the levels, especially in women's gymnastics, is that you've got these progressions kind of built in, so that they're getting that, because they're getting air awareness, sense, you're getting timing, with the joints, not just air awareness about the timing, but timing and the joints and the muscles. Sequencing of the muscles has to happen. And they're figuring out how to shape change, right? So if you have an athlete that gains good brain body control, then that drop and up into the hands, like you just said, Carla, it's really actually easy, right? I remember I was a free hip queen. We did absolutely anything and everything out of free hips because clear hips now everybody calls them, but like then you know free hip to handstand. I was a queen at that, just free hip handstand, free hip handstand, free hip handstand. And so we did all kinds of things out of free hip handstands. Now I probably would have tried, is it the Ray? What is the free hip handstand to Dakachev? What is that, Carla or Dawn or Brienne or whoever knows? Is it a Ray? What is it? Sorry, Carla, you unmuted, but do you know what that's called? Free up to Tkachev? Yeah, anyways, I probably would have played with that because my free ups were so powerful. But they were easy.
I get him a little confused with the men. I believe the stall there is the Ray, and it's a Piatti for men. For some odd reason, I'm not.
I know. Anyways, yeah, I never figured out this. We didn't work Stelters when I was because my free ups were so good. We did a lot of free up work. But point being is that when I mastered the free up, it was quite easy. You also see this with proficiency when someone gets their first kip. Like at first they're not proficient, right? And they're working really hard. But once they figure out the movement pattern, right? It doesn't have to be hard. So I think part of that, give me a second. Oh, Brienne, yeah, look it up. Let me know. We'll come back. It's gonna bother me. No, let me know if you figure it out. All right, let's move on. We'll move on to the next one. So, myth 2 is to be a good gymnast, right? I have to specialize early at a young age. This is definitely something I still keep hearing. Matter of fact, I've got a few gyms I work with in my preschool programs who are concerned because they're like, oh, we got to be doing gymnastics by like age 2.5, 3. Like they need to be looking like they're doing something that looks like gymnastics. And because they're like, we're in Houston, and like Houston, I live in Texas, you guys. So they're like, everyone here is so competitive about gymnastics, etc. We need to be sports specific, like stuff early, like at age 3. And this actually sadly has penetrated all sports now because there are now youth leagues 3 to 7 years old in almost every sport, and most of them are run by dads or moms, right? Like, and so that being said, it saddens me to see how much sport specifics is going on. So early specialization will make my athlete better, right? And I've actually had parents tell me, like, if we don't have something specialized by 7, we're not getting a college scholarship. And I'm like, if we're doing sports because we're doing college, trying to get a college scholarship, your money's probably better spent in a 401k or not 401k, in like some kind of investment, right? And why is that? Well, because 1% of athletes go to Olympics and less than 5% go to college sports. And we have college gymnastics dwindling. So if you're looking for gymnastics to be it, now there are a lot of acro and tumblings growing, and pole vaulting and diving. A ton of gymnasts who've made transitions in less than a year and gotten pole vaulting and diving scholarships I've worked with. So it's an easy transition. But this idea that if we don't specialize, we're gonna not make something, right? So training, here's the concept though. Training in one sport, or they think early, gives you more time to learn that sport, which means they get more repetitions, which means they get better. And there is actually been some things that people have used, but they've used it improperly. Like there's this study of like, if you do 10,000 of something, you become proficient at it, blah, blah, blah. But they've left out the pieces that led to that. So it's actually not about repetition. Like people took that study and thought that that meant that you have to do a huge number of something to be good at your job, your profession, your sport, right? But what they forgot to look at is that study actually didn't look at the quality of the numbers. It didn't look at how the athlete was feeling, how much fun they were having. It didn't look at keeping it like keeping novelty in your training, so the ability to change what they're doing, working something but having fun while doing it. There's a whole bunch of neuroscience research on that. All of those things help. Using autonomy, giving choices, helps improve the quality of your outcome. Your coaching language, right? That also makes a huge difference in the performance of the athlete. And so they didn't look at how safe the athlete felt in their environment while training. All of these factors in the world of neuroscience, we now know, actually make a huge, huge difference in the quality of the output. So skill acquisition, skill retention, how easily you learn something can be modified and improved dramatically by coaching language, autonomy, giving the athlete autonomy, creating a safe environment where the athlete feels super safe, they feel valued, and they have independence. We also know that having fun and releasing happy-go-lucky happy-go-lucky chemicals in our brain, having fun and enjoying what we're doing, enhances the ability to learn and grow and have quality training. So that study that people look at for repetitions and try to use it as the argument that you just need more repetitions, right? It actually is starting to be debunked by neuroscience currently, because it did not keep into account what those repetitions look like. Under what factors did it actually hit? So here's the thing. This is the fact. Repetitive movement specific to one activity directly correlates to higher injury risk and shorter longevity in a sport. So they've done several studies, and they've looked at, because this has really grown since Title IX in the, I think it's late 70s, early 80s. I don't remember exact date right now, don't quote me on it. Women have joined sports more rampantly, right? And sports have been available for women. And in that process, sports in youth have just grown hugely. And since then, they've tracked the single sport participation, so becoming a sport specialist. And they have tracked it to where it shows that they tracked it in relation to overuse injuries. So why do we talk about overuse injuries? Well, because more than 60% of injuries that are seen in the United States by medical providers are overuse injury for children under, so adolescents and pre-adolescence injuries. More than 60% of them are overuse injuries. And this is important because that is preventable, right? Because overuse means that how they're doing something is not well. So technique, form, it means repetition, it means impact, all of those things. But there's been a direct correlation to the rise of single sport participation and the rise of overuse injuries, which to me is sad, because that's preventable, because we're not giving them a variety of movement. So we want to look at repetitive movement specific to one activity. It hinders our motor development. So I want to talk about this. I did see, I got to pause for a second though. I did see that Brianne wrote in that a straddle is a Hindorf and a pike is a Jones. Yeah, I would have done a Hindorf. That's what it was. So thank you, Brianne, for clearing up what a free hip Dagachev is a Hindorf if it's straddled. I have to leave early for the meeting. Okay, Hannah, thank you so much for coming. Catch the recording, my friend. We've got some great information coming, and you'll also get an email about our new program coming out. It's our preschool program. So if you're interested in it, you can drop a direct message to me if you'd like in the chat, and I will shoot you a call and kind of talk to you about your preschool program, see if there's anything we can do to help you out. All right, so moving forward, yeah, send me a direct link of your phone number. We'll text later. You can just do a direct message to me in the chat. Okay, so back to this facts about sport specialization, right? So repetitive movements specific to one activity It hinders motor development. And this leads into my preschool program, by the way. Because what tends to happen is we tend to train this pillar performance. So it's like, okay, I want to get a handstand. So I'm going to train all my conditioning for a handstand, all my stretching for a handstand, all my drills for a handstand. Everything's in a straight body position in this handstand, right? Or I want to get a back handspring, and everything's trained in this like backwards direction, all these things. So we train a pillar of performance versus training a pyramid of performance, right? So if you think about it, if I put a house on top of this pillar, it's eventually going to crack and crumble. But look how solid the pyramids are, right? They are still there, and they are going to be there, right? And so the pyramid is built on what we call a large movement menu, right? So for example, if I want to work on, let's say, sticking, right? Instead of always sticking with my feet straight forward and in that standard stick position, right? I would want to start doing some squats in a variety of ways. I would do heel raises in a variety of ways. Feet turned out, feet turned in, feet forward, feet close, feet wide. I'd have asymmetrical. I actually did an article for United States Elite Coaching Association. There was 108 ways to squat. And, and so it was just a point of showing like there are so many different ways to move. So the greater our athlete's movement menu is, right? But below the movement menu, you have to first have movement literacy, which we're also going to talk about, the brain-body connection. So you actually have to know how to move first. Then once you learn how to move, you can have a large movement menu and start growing, sampling the menu, right? First is learning movement literacy, right? Which is like, how do I connect my brain to body? How do I hinge at my hips to squat? How do I bend my knees and my ankles at the same time? How do I push through my toes to get off the ground? So it's like movement literacy. How do I connect my body and coordinate my limbs? That's even lower. That's like the foundation of everything, and which is part of the program that we talk about for the preschoolers. So how do I connect my brain body to coordinate? How do I know where my limbs are in space? How do I know how to move one individual body part separate? That's kinesthesia. If I have that movement literacy, then I can start to connect it into movements like squatting. And then I can start to say, okay, well, sampling the menu of like, what's it like to squat with my feet wide? What is it like to squat together? Like all the different ways to do these things. Then you build up to the pyramid where you start doing drills and you say, okay, this is a drill for a skill, but can I do this drill in a couple different ways? Can I do it forward? Can I do it backwards? Can I do it twisting? Can I do it with my arms wide or my arms close? How can I do a drill and change my movement pattern? If you have an athlete who can do a drill and they have the ability to move a body part differently in that drill, and then also come back and do it the way you want to do it, and they can go these directions, you now have an athlete that has better coordination and control from their brain to their body. And the more you have that, the easier it is to do the top of the pyramid, which is a flick on beam or stick a landing or stick a double back, because sticking a double back is way harder than sticking a standing back, right? So it's like the problem is where we like to spend and we think that parents want to see is everything that needs to look like gymnastics. And it's like, well, they're in the gym and they're paying for gymnastics, so they better look like everything up here. The fallacy in that is that you're now training repetitive movement patterns, and you now have an athlete. You have to ask yourself, when do they get hurt? Do they get hurt when they do it perfect? No. Do they get hurt when they land a little off? Yeah. So the question is, can you create more stability, control, coordination, etc., down here in all the varieties of movement, so that then when you ask them to do the very specific thing, it's very easy, right? So if you so the way that we train this is that 60 to 70% of our training really should be in a variety of ways, not sport specific. The sport specific should be 30 to 40% depending on the time of year, right? We're going to be more sport specific during season, clearly, but you're not going to throw the baby out with the bathwater. You don't want to throw all the movement variety out just because you're focusing on routines. So you just kind of downsize the percentage of time spent there. Now, when you look at the structure of your gymnastics programs in your gym, right, we should have preschoolers coming in at 3 months if this is Brandi's Born to Move world. So it's like their babies are coming in at 3 months. Then we've got our 1 to 2 year olds. Then we've got our 3 our 2 to 3.5-year-olds, and then into our 4 and 5-year-old preschool program. Then we're going to divide, and in that section, right, this is the bulk undersurface of your gym, they should be learning movement literacy and movement menu and sprinkling in what looks like going to be gymnastics. And then we can feed them into programs like Excel and DP and acro and tumbling and ninja and men's gymnastics and trampoline and partner acrobatics or our whatever program we're heading them into. Then you can start to feed them and start spending more time in your sports specific. But again, they still have to have a foundation of a movement variety at higher levels, right? Like I might be doing something with a baby where there are like a, let's say 1 to 2-year-old or 2 to 3-year-old where they're having to pick up a ball, a weighted ball, and then drop it into something, right? And believe it or not, a weighted ball, like 3 pounds, cool bow, 4 pounds. My daughter used to pick up to 6 pounds actually. Because why? I'm working on their squat at that point, right? But then that's going to look like that level 10 that is weighted with some weights and they're squatting or they got a weighted vest on and we're squat jumping and we're doing it feet out and feet in all these ways, right? And why? Well, because then on my sport specific side at the top of the pyramid, I'm going to be doing stick drills. Jump off of the vault, do a front flip and land because your vault is a front handspring front. Your vault's your Chanko layout. Okay, you're going to stand on the end of the vault, do a layout and stick, right? But it starts with the little 2-year-old, right? 1 to 2, well, 2 to 3-year-old, picking up a weighted ball and just dropping it on the floor, right? And these are just like challenges that we want to give them, but they have to have a movement literacy to build out that higher level of the pyramid. And then we have to not abandon the lower level of the pyramid, because if you spend all your time here and you spend, let me rephrase that. If you flip the pyramid and you have your very little time, let's see if I can flip it. Let's just spin it. Can I spin it? There it is. If I flip my pyramid and I spend like 30% of my warm-up time on, feet turned out, feet turned in, and like doing something weird. And then I spend the bulk of my time doing sport specific. You can see all of a sudden I have a level 10 who's injured or who's crumbling, or an older athlete that's just, coming apart because they're having different injuries, or they're hitting mental blocks. This is the other thing. Everybody wants to blame mental blocks on the mind, but there's 80% information coming from the body. So if my body doesn't have a movement menu and I can't figure out how to move individual body parts, I don't have movement literacy in moving individual body parts, proprioception, coordination, all these things, then I'm moving from this space and trying to do something really hard. And if the brain's number one job is to protect me, what's the brain going to do? Is it going to say, yeah, go for it? Go for it, because you only have this amount of ability to know where you are in space. Just go for it. You'll be fine. No, the brain's going to put on the brakes and say, stop. And so then you have fear. So sometimes it looks like injury. Sometimes it looks like fear. And people want to just, blame it all on the mind, which there is a part of that, right? So the larger the movement menu, the greater the child's attention to task, inhibitory control, working memory, emotional regulation, and ability to do higher learning. This is super cool in neuroscience. So part of what we have to build is that movement literacy, right? Which is what our programs in the preschool programs do, is we have to build this neural connections, okay? And those neural connections are built through movement. So if we limit the exposure to a limited set of movements, right, like sport specific, we actually decrease the child's neural connections being made. This is so important because before the age of 4, they have such massive neural development happening. And before the age of 2, it's more than 100 billion neural connections per second happening. 100 billion neurons per second. So it's like we need to have really a lot of movement literacy happening in the younger ages. And then we have to keep revisiting it, because otherwise we'll make a pyramid that's uneven, right? And so as the kids learn movement literacy, movement menu, they develop a map of me, which is their inner map of themselves, how to move, how to do all these things. The map and experiences, right? The experiences of movement create their body image, What is their body in space? What does their body look like? Creates even self how do we say this? Not just self-confidence, but self-esteem about their body image because they have a good map of me. Motor patterns and coordinated motor planning directly correlate to the areas in the brain that are in charge of executive functions, right? Executive functions being memory, impulse control, ability to sit still, attention to task, all of those things. So the larger the movement menu, the greater the child's attention task, inhibitory control, working memory, emotional regulation, and ability to have higher learning. Now, I have a question for some of you guys who are coaching some of the older girls. Have you guys ever noticed that when your athletes start getting into AP classes or they're really doing a lot of studying, that sometimes they have either aches and pains creep up, or that they have maybe it's aches and pains, maybe it's fear, things that they had like the week before, all of a sudden, like they're struggling to get them. Have you ever noticed that in like your older athletes?
Yes, I have a gymnast that it's stomach pains before every test, but it's been happening since she was younger. So in our gym, we had started like a Monday motivation and journaling and then it just carried on until high school. Because towards the end of the year, for one of the gyms I work for, we compete during the summer. And so preparing for exams and to compete, her whole body, she said, just feels like it's shutting down on her. So she gets a lot of brain fog, high anxiety. Yeah, we can't get on the balance beam for maybe a week. Just anything you say, you can just see the panic in her face. And um, at first I was like, well, maybe the workouts are too hard, but after just reviewing just her whole gymnastics history, I'm like, oh, it has to do with school. And it's a frequent injury. So even dismount some bars, we will stop during exam time. We'll just take a moment. Any high risk skills, we'll lower it down. So we'll just do the bare minimum. And then once that exam time is over, they recollect themselves, then we slowly add it back. Because the last time that we had a gymnast have a concussion during exam season because she was just stressed.
Yeah. Yeah. Latifa, thank you so much for sharing, because so even in the chat, we have Brienne saying she sees a lot of fear, and Dawn saying yes with exclamation points, quick to tears, like a lot of athletes, quick to tears, big emotions happening, right? So, I'm so glad you said that, Latifa, because it's like, this is a piece that I think we're missing. So number one, I am super happy to hear that you guys are backing off, right? You're like, and you're recognizing that, oh, this is an external force that we don't have control over. It's affecting our athletes' alarm systems, which then puts them at risk for injury. And it may not even be injury. It could be also, a bad experience that then creates a mental block, right? I had two experiences in high school, should not have been on the balance beam Saturday morning practice. And I gave myself double black eyes on my foot lay. I missed my foot and I hit here, and I knew internally I was too tired. I knew it was not a flight day, and I just did it anyways. And I did it not once, but twice. And it was both Saturday morning practices after, long Friday evening, whatever, being a high schooler. And I should have just spoken up and said, hey, I'm just not up for it today. Can we stay on the low beam? And the alarm system just wasn't capable, right? So then we create more mental blocks when we do actually manifest a fall like that, right? So what's really interesting is I like to number one, yes, do exactly what you're doing. Back off, let them know we recognize that there's a lot of stress. It's affecting your body and your brain and your gymnastics, right? I had another athlete that has lost her father, and that happened when she was very young, but it happened during a certain time of year. And she's noticed that during that time of year, every year, she just struggles in the gym. And so part of this has to do with our nervous system's ability to protect us. So if you look at it, like we have all these different containers, right? I think some people were in here when Coach Levi was talking about tumbling and fear. I usually talk about the mental body, emotional body, and the physical body. We have all three, plus we have a spiritual body and an energy body. But looking at just the three basics, mental, physical, and emotional, and he talked about containers, right? So like one of the stories we talk about in neuroscience is about our container, right? And let's say, how there's different ways to look at it. How full is my container? Like how much joy, how much am I cared for? And another way to look at like our emotional container or our stress load, right, is that if I put water in a container, right, it's going to be okay. But if I keep pouring, eventually it's going to overflow. But if I have water and then I put fire underneath it, all of a sudden it's going to bubble over, right? It's going to start to boil. And our alarm system's number one job is to protect us. And it doesn't matter if it's emotional, if it's mental. So if it's an emotional strain or stress or overload, or if it's a mental strain or stress or overload, or if it's physical, the brain, all of it, it's all judged the same. And it doesn't matter if it happens at home or if it happens in the gym, right? We just have, everyone might call it bandwidth, right? But we just all have a certain threshold, right? And part of what I love about sports is it helps us find that threshold, mental, emotional, physical threshold. How far can I stretch myself mentally, and how much can I handle emotionally and be resilient? How much can I push my physical body before I'm done, right? Like whether it's endurance or strength or power, like there's all these different ways, and we're finding our bandwidth, finding our fences, right, per se. And the thing that's interesting, and the thing that I'm having a lot of coaches talk about, is that in the last 10 years, coaching an athlete today versus 10 years ago is just not the same. It's just not the same. Their bandwidth for anything is not the same. It may be emotional, it may be mental, it may be physical. Like they're not coordinated enough. Their stretching's not the same. They're not flexible. They're like all these different things. Their ability to listen and take more than one task at a time has declined over the years, in the last 10 years. And so part of this we have to look at is neurodevelopment and how our children are developing early on. And so one piece, Latifa and Dawn and also Brianne, is that motor literacy, that brain-body connection, and creating a foundation for life. So part of what we do in the Born to Move program is we are working on those early neural connections. And sadly, over the last 10 years and more, we've gradually been getting more and more away from letting our little ones really explore the world, right? There's been a lot of fear-based, and it's been driven a lot by media, marketing, money, because if you have a container, right? So I call them container babies. That's what we call them in the physical therapy world, is, we've got these bamboo seats that are built for babies that aren't sitting. And as a gymnastics coach, you guys all know, would you put someone through a back handspring if they cannot do a bridge? No. So why are we sitting babies before they can sit? And then there's all these swings and stuff that we're also sitting a baby upright in a C position, right? When they don't have the core control or the brain has not developed either, because every phase of our movement, whatever happens in the body, happens in the brain. So in the early years, this is true for life, period, but in the first 4 years of life, all of their information that's coming in is sensory and motor. So how they sense the world, the information coming in through the senses, and how they move dictate the highways that are being made in their brain. And so if I'm allowed to explore in my space and I find that, oh, that's really hard, or that, oh, when I get to this point, I fall over, right? Or when I get to this point, I get really tired, I can't hold my head up. Or when I try to crawl over something, I fall back on my butt because I haven't figured out how to coordinate my head over my shoulders, over my hips. Do you realize that that is someone who can't do a handstand later? Or when they go to do the handstand, they're like, ugh. So my vestibular system, where I am in space, is gathering information with the more experiences I have on where I am in space under the age of 4. And so the reason I say this is because when the systems, whether it's emotional, mental, or physical, get stressed, anywhere where there was a weak link, it'll show its head. So we're going to talk over the next couple of weeks about the 6 sensory motor building blocks and how to implement that with everyone. And we'll talk about how we do this in the foundation of our preschool program, Born to Move. So we have Born to Move babies. Right now we're launching the waddlers. I'm only one person, so I can only teach them once a year. And so we require lives to be part of it because the lives are very important. You need to be there. But then you get lifetime access to all the training. So you can keep training your staff over and over. We have support systems to help you support through the program as well afterwards. But you end up with the program. It's a done-for-you program. Everything's included, equipment bundle, all the equipment you need for the preschool program for that age, the entire equipment bundle, nursery rhymes, music, all that's included. Live classes, training with me, 12 hours total. We have 6 weeks that we spread out. You have to have at least one person from your gym into the lives. And then you get recorded lifetime access to all of that stuff. We break it into small chunks, 5 to 10 minutes, so it's easy for people to digest. We have quizzes, and we have ways for you as a gym to make sure that whoever you've assigned, that they've actually taken their modules, they're passing their quizzes, all of that stuff. We have some, fail safes so that you know that you're training everyone properly. And so it comes with everything you need to immediately start the program. And then we have ways to help support you. We also have a basic marketing kit, including a promotion video and 6 social media posts, and some flyers, trifold flyer and a basic flyer as well, just so that you can start the program, because I feel like gyms can fill this gap. So where I'm looping this in with everything is that you have a bunch of preschoolers that aren't getting the opportunity to explore and learn their body, create a good map of me, feel where they are in space in every direction. Because if I'm laid down on my back all the time in a container, I never get to feel what it feels like for my head to be forward, so I do a ton of vestibular work with all kinds of level of kids. I can't tell you how many kips. Coaches probably hate me. I did not teach them the kip, but they were lacking. And every time they get to the kip, they either bend their arms or they get their head would be back and they're just trying to throw over, but they can't get over their kip, right? I work on their vestibular system going forward. I find out a little bit more about their development from the parents. I'm like, oh, didn't spend much time crawling. Didn't spend much time on their belly, was an early walker. Like, these are all red flags for I don't have all the neural highway pathways to be doing high level gymnastics up here. And it's called motor planning. That's the top of the pyramid of the building blocks. And gymnastics is amazing at motor planning. And back in the 1980s, it was fine that you did just motor planning, obstacle courses, coordinating high level movements together for your preschoolers, right? But guess what? No one comes in anymore with tactile, with their proprioceptive block and their vestibular block and their tactile touch block built out and strong and solid. Kinesthesia, strong and solid. They got chances to do all their motor patterns. They're not coming in with those bottom foundation blocks. And now we're trying to do gymnastics with them. And their resilience, emotional resilience isn't there. Their mental fortitude isn't there. Their memory or ability, attention to task, ability to keep focus for longer than a short period isn't there. We're trying to grow that, but we're growing it from this upper level and no one's spending time down here. So part of what we are eventually going to do, and I'm going to teach a little bit of it too, but like, what does it look like to do my preschool type stuff with Olympians? Like, I do it with all levels. I've got adults doing stuff. I've got Olympians doing stuff. And the key is that if we don't have a solid foundation, we're going to have a rocky top. And that might look like emotional anxiety and stress. It might look like not being able to compete, but they can't train. They train well, but they can't compete well. It might look like injuries, fear, mental blocks. It might look like just not being able to keep them on task, right? So Dawn just said, ooh, could we learn some of the vestibular drills for the kips? Yes, Dawn, remind me. We'll do it in the Invincible program. Just remind me. Yeah. But the point is that we want to create this foundation. And when you have athletes that are having these moments like Latifa and Dawn and Brianne were just talking about, the cool thing about neuroplasticity and neuroscience is we can go back and revisit them. So I have a lot of gyms who are actually taking my preschool program and going, oh my gosh, because I spend time with them teaching them the neural development behind it, the gross motor and the why, and then I teach them the curriculum, right? And so now that they're learning the why, like, I use this with like my rec kids, and I use this with my Excel kids, and I use this with my team kids, and oh my gosh, this got better, and oh my gosh, her fear got better, like went away. And it's like, well, yeah, if we can create a regulated human, right, where their nervous system is talking and getting everything that they need on the foundational level, then doing this stuff up here, you guys already know how to do that. There's like 1,000 drills for a kip. There's 1,000 drills for a back handspring. But if they're coming in down here, you're going to keep hitting the wall of their vestibular system's not built, their tactile touch isn't built, their proprioceptive system's not built, like you're losing basically the micro foundations, right? It's like, oh, I can break down the skill down to, just the handstand or just the push off part or the jump drill or for the back handspring, like whatever. You guys are masters at breaking down the skill, but no one's breaking down the neuroscience behind the movement literacy and the map in their brain that you're working with. If the map is missing pieces, then it's hard to actually create success, and you're always going to have to like modify, which I'm grateful you're doing, because you can't keep stressing it. Like in my day and age when I was being coached, they didn't give a anything. So it was like, I'm a robot. I don't care that your hormones are wherever. I don't care that you stayed up late doing your science project or whatever. This is the assignment. Get the assignment done. Oh, okay, you're upset and you're emotional. Okay, go to the bathroom, shake it off, wash your face, get some water. When you're ready to come back, your assignment's here, right? Like it was like, we were like robots. But what I love is that we're now recognizing like pushing more is not the answer, right? But I think where people are missing in the gymnastics world an opportunity to change their community and change the lives of these kids forever. And also where you're missing like the ability to get to do the next, right? And to get to not have to drop off the whole time is the ability to increase their resilience, right? And by the way, I work with Doc Alley. I love her. She comes in here. There are tools for fear and et cetera, but still all of these tools are high level up here. If you don't have a neural map that creates a sense of safety, that creates a sense of self body map, my map of me, and I don't know how to coordinate like one body part at a time, then I'm lacking in the foundations to even work from. And so that's where Born to Move comes in. Dawn, I saw you wanted to unmute. Come on in.
Yeah, when my youngest was in kindergarten, I think I might have told you this before, but her kindergarten teacher had formerly been a PE teacher and knew that the reason a lot of kindergartners struggled with learning how to read was because they skipped crawling, because crawling and other crossing the midline activities help develop the right connections in the brain for learning. And so she would play games with all the kindergartners that it required them to crawl as a sneaky way of just getting them to help build those pathways and stuff. And so it's amazing how everything is so interconnected, because we live in such a world that likes to compartmentalize everything. And they don't realize that, oh, well, my kid just skipped crawling is really a red flag for some issues they're going to have down the road, because they completely skipped it. Now, great, if they wanted to walk early, but also have them crawl, like those kind of things. I mean, it's just really important.
Yeah, I mean, part of what we talk about is actually as we go through the gross motor skills, right, where we start from on the belly to the crawling, then so on our belly crawling, then crawling is actually creeping on our hands and knees, and then to kneeling, then to vertical, then trying to walk. We're actually developing different parts of the brain. We start from the lower brain, which is where we have our sense of security and safety when we're on our belly in that lower levels. Then we go to where we're creeping, which people call crawling, on their hands and knees. Right? That is our midbrain, which is our emotional centers. So if I can stay on my belly longer, and even if I can revisit being on my belly when I'm an adult or a higher level athlete, I can actually get a sense of security in the world and a sense of self. That's that grounding proprioceptive feedback. Like we actually develop a safe brain. And then when we get to that crawling, or what we call creeping, but crawling on all fours, that's when we start hitting that midbrain, which is our emotional regulation centers. So spending time in that movement patterns and in that mid-level movement sequence actually will develop a more regulated emotional centers in our brain. And then when we hit vertical, we start getting to the mammalian brain, which is this thinking brain, right? The higher thinking, which is why if you overtrain, just like if you overtrain one thing or another, if you overtrain the thinking brain, because all you're doing is AP classes and lots of higher brain function stuff, and you've neglected, right, your lower brain through movement and through regulation tools, and you've neglected the emotional centers, no matter what, guess who's driving the bus? Even physiologically, they loop on each other, right? Like anatomically. And so everything must go through the low brain. Does this make sense all of a sudden? Everything has to go through the low brain. This is why you can have someone who's brilliant, but have no ability to have social interactions, or no ability for, they might be brilliant and they think things through, or you might call this athlete an overthinker, but they actually, they're afraid to try something new. Or when they fail at something once, they won't try it again because they don't have any sense of agency, because that low brain hasn't been developed. So using movement, that's how we learn. Senses and movement, that is how we learn. And so using the sensory and the motor development, you can actually build solid foundations neuroanatomy wise, like actually in the brain, so that you can have something to work from when you're trying to do higher level things, right? So I want to talk to you guys really briefly about our program. It's Born to Move, and we're now releasing our waddlers right now. It's live right now. We have a few spots left. The very first 10 gyms to join get 50% off. We only have a couple spots left now of the first 10. But there'll be also, if you get on the wait list, there'll be some other promotions and stuff coming, some other like cool things we're giving away for those who join the wait list first. But the first 10 get 50% off. There's a few spots left. What we're doing right now is the waddlers. Waddlers are going to be beginning walking. So they're interested in walking. They're starting to take a couple steps. They're in the vertical now. And then, so it's going to be beginning walking, which we hope is around 12 to 14 months. Yes, 12 to 14 months, not 10 months. If we've done the program properly in the Born to Move babies, we've kept them down and crawling, and we teach the parents a lot of stuff. There's a lot of education as part of this. And so in the activities, we have lots of fun activities that make it fun to stay down. So our babies is from 3 months to walking, which is around 3 months to 12, 14 months old. And then our waddlers, which is what we're doing live right now, is beginning walking 12 to 14 months up to 2 years. So 24 months. And we have an entire done for you curriculum. I wanted to just show you guys this. So this is the link that you guys would click. Again, right now we have a few spots left for the 50% off. And what I wanted to show you guys is basically it's a done for you program, right? So this is our level 2. We have level 3 and 4 coming 2026, early 2026. We'll have the toddlers, which are going to be 2 years to 3.5, and then we have our preschool, which is going to be 3.5, 4 years old to 5. There'll be some 6-year-olds, especially your neural atypicals, that will still love the preschool program, the Born to Move preschool program. But it's a done for you program. It helps you guys bring in younger families and fill your off-peak hours and create a really powerful feeder system like we were talking about, so that you can really help your community build solid young people, young humans. And so it includes a done for you curriculum, comes with everything you need to implement the program. We do all 6 sensory motor building blocks, which helps you guys kind of see the actual neural developmental approach. It comes with done for you lesson plans, tailored to the waddler specific. So each age group has their own lesson plans because it is based on what their neurodevelopmental needs are. We need to meet them at the skill level they are to help emerge those skills. If you train nothing but back handsprings, you're never going to get a really solid back handspring. You have to train all the drills before it, right? So we don't train walking to walk. You actually need to crawl them more, like creep them, crawl them on all fours, right? That actually needs to happen. So it's important that the lesson plans are that just right challenge so that we create good neural highways and connections. We have nursery rhymes and music bundle that's already done for you. We also give you the props and all the equipment that you need for the program. It's all included. You get live training with me, as well as some pre-recorded. We have a couple pre-recorded stuff that's a prerequisite before we start the lives so that we can jump in directly. Everything that's recorded is broken in 5 to 10 minute sections because we want it to be chewable and easy to just do a little bit at a time and catch up and stay on top of it, right? And then the live trainings, we require that there's at least one person per gym. The cost is included for your entire gym. So it's a franchise right, the entire curriculum for your entire gym. You get to train your staff over and over. It's because you get the lifetime access, but we do require there be one person per gym in. And if you have multiple facilities, it's also just, you buy the franchise right for all of your facilities. So gym owners are loving it because it's a new revenue stream. I have a couple gyms that are now dividing out, right? So that instead of having, because this is one of the issues, is that a lot of people lump together their parent and taught classes as the 18-month-olds all the way up to 3, right? And there are a huge difference developmentally between 18-month-olds and 3-year-olds. And so their needs are different, which is why we've divided out and carved in 18, the 12 to 14 month to 2, and then the 2 to 3, 3.5 is in the same, so they're in separate classes, right? Because developmentally they need different challenges. So it might create a whole new skill revenue stream for you, because you'll be creating extra course options. And then our babies classes, most people aren't starting that early, so it's a new revenue stream there. This helps keep retention, because so a lot of gyms are saying it keeps retention. They're finding families are getting engaged with the babies. They're moving into the waddlers, into the toddlers, then preschool, and then on to the full gymnastics. Done for you. They're loving that it's done for you. You get the step-by-step lesson plans, music, movement, everything you need. Parents are getting way more engaged, and they're improving their parent-child bonding, which is creating a situation where the parents are happy to come to the gym, and they're learning a lot about their kid, and they're now being more involved in your gym. They love the live trainings along with the pre-recorded stuff, because you're able to do it. And then, of course, having the franchise right training, having lifetime access, training your gyms over and over. This is a first of a kind solution for you guys. It's definitely all done for you. We just tried to make it really easy. And we even include a basic marketing kit to help you market it so you can get the program off the ground. 6 social media posts, 1 trifold flyer, and a single page flyer. We also have a promotion video. So whether you're running your toddler rec program or you're looking to expand your family services, it's a clear developmental pathway to serve your younger clients safely and meaningfully. And this is a great way to make an impact that really matters, helping children thrive and strengthen your communities, because that's where I feel like we as gymnastics world can really help the world. And I just want to show you guys this cool video.
Did you know the most critical window for your baby's development starts as early as 3 months? And yet, most programs wait until 18 months or later to begin. That's a missed opportunity. We're proud to offer Born to Move, a research-based, professionally led program designed to support your child from tummy time to toddlerhood. Because movement isn't just play. It's how your baby learns to process the world, how they build the brain-body connection that underlies everything. Sensory integration, emotional regulation, motor coordination, confidence, language, reading, and writing. And yes, even school readiness. Through 6 foundational sensory motor building blocks, this program lays the groundwork for better learners, children who are more regulated, more resilient, and ready to thrive. Our instructors are professionally trained and licensed in the Born to Move curriculum, ensuring your child is supported every step and crawl of the way. This is more than a class, it's a foundation for life. Visit our gym, join the movement. Build the foundation for a lifetime of learning, growing, and thriving. Move to learn, play to grow. Born to Move is now enrolling.
So one of the things that most of the gyms are saying, so just give you a couple of testimonials of some of our gyms that are doing the program. Every coach should go through the Born to Move in order to help their students not hit unnecessary developmental and athletic roadblocks. Having a staff that goes through this program sets us apart with parents because we are knowledgeable and proactive in their child's success. It's 100% worth the investment. So I was Chelsea up at the Rock here in Texas, and then Sue at Olympiad. She is in New Hampshire, I believe. The Born to Move completely transformed the way I approach teaching and thinking about the age children can start my program. Olivia, who's in Minneapolis, she said at Mini Hops Gymnastics, she says, I've been looking for something like Born to Move forever. As a preschool gymnastics director and a lifelong learner, I love collecting different training programs to further educate myself and my staff. Her staff has absolutely loved this training. It was exactly what they were looking for. Olivia was trying to find some cool stuff to like implement and integrate with what they already had, and the staff was super excited about this training. Colleen at Alpha Gymnastics in Washington, she said, born to move, we've seen participation steadily rise, even during times typically considered off-peak. This allows Alpha Gymnastics to maximize facility utilization, foster a vibrant community, and remain at the forefront of youth fitness education. She has absolutely just enjoyed rolling it out, and her coaches also have enjoyed just doing the training and enjoy the lesson plans. So don't wait, join our wait list. Let me hop back into, you guys can do the QR code. The QR code is here. We'd love to have you guys. Again, there's a few spots left to get the 50% off, which is great. And if for some reason you need to work on a payment plan, we definitely work with you, because for me, impacting children and your community is way more important than us having some kind of financial like roadblock. So just connect with me, communicate if that is something you need to look into. But yeah, the 15% off, I think we've got a few spots left. Next week, we are going to hop into, I believe, the 6 sensory motor building blocks. And the 6 sensory motor building blocks, we're going to talk about how to implement those in your gym, why they're important, and how it can change your whole world actually in the gym. So thank you guys so much for joining. Are there any questions before we head out? Any questions or thoughts about the program and about the 6 sensory motor building blocks? Is it making sense why you're having struggles with some of your athletes? You're welcome, Dawn. Thank you. Like Carla and Latifa, are you starting to have some aha moments about why it is that some of these roadblocks are happening with athletes? Yeah, Latifa, yes. Good. Yeah, I just
Yes.
yeah, Carla, you too? Yeah. Oh, sorry, you were unmuted and then muted. Yeah, I hope to shed some light, and we're going to go deeper into the next couple weeks about these 6 sensory motor building blocks and kind of this foundational, how can we help our athletes get through all of this? You're welcome, Carla. Thank you guys so much for joining. I'll see you guys next week. Same link to register. You do have to register each week though. So thank you guys for coming in, and I'll see you guys next week. Appreciate you all. Bye.